Casey's son had a soccer game, and so she'll be joining us. I'll take minutes until she arrives. Okay, so I don't see, there's Jay. All right, so the first order of business is to get an approval. There were two sets of minutes. The first approval we need was of our regular board meeting on the 11th. That was the 5:30 to 6 segment of the meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Dave. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kathy. All in favor?
All right.
Okay. Then the second piece of it was the joint meeting with the town and village boards. So can I have a motion to approve the joint meeting minutes?
So moved.
All right, Kathy, and a second?
I'll second.
Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so Jay, I see you. I did send it to Nicola. Is she with you, or is she going to join us separately? And you are on mute. Jay.
I'm muted. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
She was to be joining. I just talked to her on the phone.
okay, you know what?
I'm gonna mute myself and
Yeah, okay, I'll skip her and because we've just got a couple of other little things we'll do and then we'll drop back to you. So I forwarded all of you last week the additional projects. So you saw a good update on where the small project fund is. Things are moving. I did see on Monday there was someone tucking the brick on the Sarah Dayton Maddie May building. And we're moving ahead with Frenchtown Market. So, you know, there's these steps and they wanted to do it in pieces and that had to get approved and then it got approved. So there's steps, but we are making steps in the right direction. The only one that's done right now are the fire station doors. That one is complete. And you should see the facade on Twisted Cape starting soon, is what I understand. They've got the machine that they wanted in there and they have, the HVAC is being worked on now. So there were 3 pieces to theirs. The other one that's sort of hanging out there is Loon Landing. That's the one right next to Club Street. And so I think we won't really see anything on that till the spring, and Cup of Joy. But things are moving on those designs. Any questions on additional projects? Nope. Okay. Tourism promotion. Nicola and Jay, I see you both joined. Just give me a minute. I skipped you guys and I'm coming back. So one thing, so hopefully all of you saw the Path Through History. That actually is, originally was just going to be the lighthouse. And then we get free publicity from I Love New York State. We got a boatload of things the other day at my house. But we now have joined forces with the museum. We are highlighting the Lions Club breakfast, the fire station dinner, so you won't see that in newspaper articles because that makes us a different kind of article and we have to pay. So you won't see us talk about that, but all of our flyers have that. If you have a chance to come into the village, all the businesses that are in a historic building will have, first of all, a little sign out front that says Path Through History. And then you'll see an old picture in the window of what the business was and a brief history of what different businesses were in there. So there's a driving tour of historic houses that you can pick up at the thing. Stacy has done a phenomenal job on this particular thing in an incredibly short period of time. And our total cost is $40. So I think we've done pretty well. Nice article in the Watertown Daily Times today. Also, the TI Sun had a very nice article. That was the Lighthouse article, but so this is the kind of things we want the tourism office to do, right? To put out those press releases. 2 press releases went out because there's one on the weekend, but then on Monday at noon, I wrote a grant for a brand new historical marker at the base. I don't know if any of you had been up there in a long time, but we had Tibbetts was spelled incorrectly. The paint was peeling off. It looked pretty bad. So we got 100% grant. They make Pomeroy Foundation makes them, and so we have to have a dedication ceremony So we are having that on Monday at noon. If anybody's available, we'd like to have bodies in the picture. There will be cookies and cider after to entice you. But it should be a really nice event. So that's, yes.
Sorry, will the historical stuff like the map and all that be available throughout the year, or is it like a one-time thing we're doing?
Well, so it's a first draft. And what's really cool about it is if you pick one up, Mandy, there's a QR code on the front, and this is where Stacy has skills that are excellent. It actually brings up Google Maps, and you can actually touch each of the historic houses and it will direct you to them.
Oh, cool.
So the brochure has a little, this is the history of the house, this is when it started. So it's something that will be evergreen.
Okay.
But I think we can do more. I think there were more houses we could put on, but in the interest of time, it's a nice trifold.
That's awesome.
So that's Pathway Through History, good way for us to ride on the New York State weekend. It is a specific weekend that they do this.
Oh, New York State does a New York State History Weekend on this particular weekend.
Yes,
Okay.
and so they sent something to the lighthouse to say, your historic building, do you want to participate? And it
Gotcha.
was like, why wouldn't we participate? Bigger.
Right.
And then in my spare time, as I told Kathy, between 3:30 and 5 a.m., I thought it'd be a good thing to pull together. So but I think it's going to be really nice, and we're supposed to have good weather, so fingers crossed. The other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, and this is just, I want your opinion. I don't like the format of what I'm going to pass around. However, I'm also in the Improvement League. So they have always had a kind of trifold brochure that says, this is the Improvement League, don't you want to join? And so there was a discussion a couple of months ago about, well, wouldn't it be, should we refresh it? It's old. And then people said, well, what do you really do with it? And so a member, and Susan Elnoff and myself said, well, wouldn't it make more sense if, as people purchased a house in Cape Vincent, it went to them and make it bigger? I always want to make it bigger. So this is a very rough draft of, and we were originally going to go through realtors, and then we're like, oh yeah, then you lose control of the distribution. And then Stacy said, I can find out when a house sells in Cape Vincent. I can print one off and go to their house and drop it off.
Maybe with a full welcome packet.
Wouldn't a welcome packet be really not? Yeah, I didn't know if I wanted to go that big. First, I wanted to get your idea. I mean, and of course, the Improvement League said they'd give us $50 to print them. And I thought, honey, that's going to last us about 3 years. But anyway, I just thought, let's pick it under the LDC. I had her put an LDC logo on it because remember, it's tourism promotion to live in Cape Vincent. So if people feel welcomed to live in Cape Vincent, they're likely to tell their friends they felt welcome. So I love the idea of a welcome thing. We can talk about that, but I'm going to pass this around. Markup, I don't like the look of it. It's definitely got an improvement look feel because it was based on that. But the idea would be we would talk to all the different things you can join, right? So Lions Club would have something, Chamber of Commerce would have something. You'd have all these different groups. So people are like, oh, I got a whole bunch of things I could get involved in the community. That's the concept. Write on it, say what you think. And we can talk about whether you like this as part of our, so there's format discussion, but there's also, what do you guys think of that kind of thing under the LDC, under the Tourism Promotion Office?
They used to do the welcome packet.
Yeah, I think that was the Improvement League, and they sort of fell off that, and they're more into, flowers and gardens now.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. I think it'd be great to have maybe even and I would support the LDC doing it under the same context you just talked about. And a folder, and it has different things. It has town office phone numbers. It has the dump schedule. It has all the phone numbers, all those
You
things.
jot that when you get it, jot ideas on it, because this is just, she spent a very little time on this to just get the concept out.
I think, I was originally thinking like a little booklet, but it changes so often. So
Well, yeah, that's why even the Taste of Cape thing she did, it's all QR codes.
Right.
Because that way, whatever their hours change, it's
I
whatever.
think, and just a note with that, I think the QR codes are great, but a lot of people don't know how to use QR codes.
Mhm.
So I think under QR codes, maybe should still have the website
URL,
address.
yep.
Because there's
Yeah.
people that don't know how to use
I
it.
agree.
But I think, and if, you know, depending on our funding and everything, we could even like make something nice, a little, I don't know. Well, I love the idea of a welcome pack.
Okay,
And
cool.
portable.
Other thoughts?
Just first part is, do you give it to just residents or is it for people who scoop up 5 Airbnbs here?
Yeah, you wouldn't do the 5 Airbnbs, so she would, you know, it would be a single residence. You know, is the person actually like, have they moved in there? So she'll have to monitor that. The one thing, Dave, that brings up to me was, what about like the major rental
I
things,
actually-
like Aubrey Court and why can't I ever think of the name of the other one? I've been to all of them, door to door. You know, the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually having them at the Airbnbs, maybe asking for a cost, especially if we have to replenish them.
Well, and
Because-
and
Because we're drawing people in, right? And if they're here, I know the Airbnbs can be a touchy subject because they're taking homes away. I understand that, but if they already have them, we can't control that.
but there was another package that went to Airbnbs.
Okay,
So, and that's the one, Carol, that you and I were communicating about, right? We didn't print them, but we did is we offered them and said, here's a package
Mhm.
that you could print out and put in your Airbnb. So Stacy actually went
Okay.
through the RBO Airbnb and then contacted
Mhm.
people that way. So, and a bunch of them, you know, said thank you, and so we assume they took them, and they're nice packages. And the idea is now we have that list of people, so we can, you know, say, oh, here's next year's version. But we didn't want to get into the printing.
no, that's fine.
Because I think that was, especially since we're using the chamber to print and there's a cost to
Right.
that. At some point, it might make sense that if we had the money to buy a copier. Because we're spending, that's pretty much most of our budget is copying, so. All right, so do I have a motion to maybe take this to the next level?
This, the
Yeah,
welcome,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I would make
absolutely,
that
yeah.
motion, I love it.
Okay, so Carol will make a motion, and do I have a second?
Second.
Kathy, all in favor?
Aye.
That is right now.
Excellent. Yeah, but like I said, I'll bring you guys another draft. This is really rough, but it was just to give you the concept.
Well, we gotta start making sure we do our look. Same look as we started on the.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this has got all, like, even everything for Path Through History, everything has the LDC logo on it, even though it's a bunch of different.
but I agree with branding too. We want to keep it the blue that Joe originally designed, and like our website is the different color blues. We want to keep that going
Yeah,
for all our marketing.
yeah.
So it's-
The Path Through History had that very,
It's just,
yeah.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
understandable if there's already stuff we have to just
Okay.
dive into, but.
The logos and stuff that are on the website are black and white.
They are black and white, yeah.
Yeah.
Joe's original designer, black and
Sorry about
white. But I think, you know, I think as long as we use that same logo, I think we could be okay. What do you guys think? Because black and white's kind of boring, but it looks very slick on,
No, I like the
Yeah.
blue. I didn't realize that was.
yeah,
what you said. Sorry about that.
No.
okay.
Well,
All right.
it was like the door, our door thing, it's a dark blue,
Right.
right?
Yeah, so we could go with a dark navy.
Like his coloring of his signage and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Good, all right. So Jay and Nicola, I'm gonna allow you to show your screen. Thank you for and I think you can just take it, can't you? I don't use Zoom as much as Teams.
I'm sorry about being late. I had a hard time getting on.
No, you know, I'll tell you, there's pieces of me that Zoom is just, I had a hard time getting on and I'm the host. So can you just take control and share your screen? Yeah, it looks like it's coming
yes.
up now.
I can. Yep.
There we go. You're on mute.
Okay. There. Now can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. So just
Okay.
a little preface. There was a lot of discussion at our last meeting about, you know, they had given us an idea of an economic plan and what that would entail. And Kathy had some very good questions about, you know, how do these dovetail together or not? And so the purpose of this presentation is really to clear that up for us, at least to the level it can be cleared up for us. So Nicole, thank you very much. Go ahead.
No problem. So I'm going to talk about the difference between the comprehensive plan versus an economic strategic plan because they are different. So like with your comprehensive plan, that is a long-term growth and land use map for you for 10 to 20 years. That's how long a comprehensive plan can go. It also focuses on housing, transportation, your parks, your economy, your community as a whole. It basically gives an entire picture of what your community is and where you kind of want all of those categories to go in what direction a little bit. Often the comprehensive plan required you to implement state laws or municipal planning regulations, updating your code, your zoning. You also have like a board of people that come together and kind of give their vision and their input. And this is people from the community from all over, board members, business owners, those kind of things. And it goes kind of like in guiding you to create a policy framework for your zoning and capital investments. So it does help with kind of your grants because it's showing that you're wanting to put dollars in specific projects. Your economic development strategic plan is different. That is focusing more on what jobs are in your community, what's the business community look like, what is your business growth, how can you expand your tax base. It's a shorter time period too. So it looks more at your overall economy within 3 to 7 years. And what are those actual steps? It emphasizes more on your industry, your workforce, what dollars are coming into the community from outside the community versus what's going out. So are people shopping at grocery stores outside of Cape Vincent? Or are they shopping and keeping their dollars local? It also looks at the use to attract investments and priorities. So it kind of says, okay, what is here and what does the economy look like and how do we market the economy? Are you more of a community that should be focusing more on being a retirement community? Should you be a college community? What does that look like? And then it also gives you a roadmap of how to implement the recommendations and strategies to build your local economy. So why does each one matter? The comprehensive plan actually provides the board a long-term vision for land use and community growth, ensuring a balance in development and alignment with state and regional policies. Whereas your economic development strategic plan focuses on the immediate actionable steps to grow jobs, strengthen the local economy, and attract new businesses and funding. So what are some of the takeaways from this? The takeaway is that the comprehensive plan will equal long-term, all-encompassed vision for the community, whereas the economic development plan is a shorter-term, actionable-driven growth for your overall economy. Both plans can complement each other to help grow Cape Vincent, both economically and as a whole with development projects. So I'm hoping that this kind of outlines a little bit of what the different plans are and why they can complement each other and why they're kind of both important. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. So,
Okay.
I've heard kind of the separation of the two, but I also see them very related. And I got the argument of the economic development strategic plan, with one of the things being, what kind of community do we want to be? Do we want to be a retirement community? We want to go ahead and have young kids and schools and all sorts of stuff. But wouldn't you also include that in the comprehensive plan? Because it's part of the vision for the community. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like they're related, but which one comes first? Because in my mind with the comp plan, you have to encompass some of the components to set conditions to go ahead and then develop an economic development plan, because that way you have a direction, you have a focus on where we want the village to go. Does that make sense?
Yes. So the comprehensive plan is, think of it like a vision board, right? It's what the community wants. Your economic development strategic plan, it's not like a vision board because you can't put in there what you want. Your data and your market drives what kind of community you are. So even though you could say, oh, I want to be a college town in your comprehensive plan, your economic development strategic plan is going to tell you, nope, sorry, that doesn't work. You should gear your comprehensive plan more towards being a retirement community. So basically, you can't put in there your wants in a strategic plan. You're actually encompassing more of what you're encompassing your recommendations based on what the data is telling us, not so much as feedback from your community and what they're looking for. And that's the difference. So they
So-
kind of complement each other.
Yeah, so I mean, it just sounds like one's aspirational, and qualitative, whereas one is quantitative with the data. And to me,
Correct.
you can't do the comprehensive plan without some data underpinning it, unless people do wishful thinking as part of their comprehensive plans, and they kind of, take a right turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah. So most of your comprehensive plan is looking at, if you think about it, the projects in there are long-term projects that the community is looking for and what direction they want to head and what that vision is. There is some data, but basically think of your economic development strategic plan as more of like a market analysis on your economy. I guess that's the best way to show it because there's going to be a lot of data collection, but then there's also a lot of equations to tell you what your community is currently to help drive that vision. But they're two separate plans. You could have your vision plan of your comprehensive plan and still have your economic strategic plan and have them both separate, but have them work together. So you could do the comprehensive plan first and then the strategic plan, or you could do the strategic plan and then the comprehensive plan. It doesn't matter which one comes first.
So if you ever run into a situation where a municipality has done both and they are significantly at odds they want to go one direction, but the data is pointing them into another one, and then there's friction because they say one plan which supports their vision, but the data is taking them another place. I could see that fraught with problems.
Yep. So I've actually encountered that in the town of Southport. They have a comprehensive plan and they had a strategic plan done right after. The strategic plan showed that they should be more of a retirement community, whereas the comprehensive plan's vision was more of a vibrant downtown, walkability, mixed use buildings, which they didn't have. So in that case, your grant writers are picking and choosing based on the grant of what's going to benefit you best. But yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
So, a question, how much external force analysis is available to a town like Cape Vincent regarding initiatives for the state, the county, and everything else that's going on? For example, we've got, a lot of politicians talking about the CHIPS Act is gonna create Micron, and we're gonna all of a sudden have thousands of new jobs, all the way up to, up to Messina. And how much of that do you take into consideration in the short term and the long term, or can you take into consideration?
So we take into account what the current economy is and what the future trends are around Cape Vincent and where the state is headed. So when I do those calculations, I take into account Cape Vincent, I take into account the region and then the state to be able to make calculations on the best avenue for you with the strategic plan.
A lot of that is difficult, especially with a thing like Micron where it's just seems very slow. right now.
2030 will be here before you know it.
You know, I think of photonics in Rochester, and they advertised it in much the same way, and nothing's been built, and it's been years. So, you know, we're aware of it. We take it into consideration, and you know, go ahead, Nicola, jump in.
Well, I was gonna say, like, that would be something like if that's something you're looking to bring in is like those types of industries indicate Vincent, that would be a vision because that's a long-term vision, right? Especially with how slow the state moves with Micron. Whereas maybe it's not in your strategic plan because maybe the strategic plan is only 3 years. And then after 3 years, we look at, okay, let's update that because the economy is going to change within 3 years. I mean, let's look at how long look how much it's changed in a year. So if your plan is 3 years, then your next update, then you could start looking at that.
Thanks.
Nicola, for me, we had a conversation, and I know you're working with Chautauqua, I believe.
I
and
am.
they-
Yeah.
And they got they got the Smart Growth Comprehensive Plan grant.
They did.
And I know that there's been some sticking points that you were talking about, you know, because it's different than us just writing a comprehensive plan. Can you talk a little bit about some of the places that Chautauqua has kind of went, oh, we didn't know we were going to have to put that in? I don't know if I'm describing it clearly enough, based on what you've seen with the requirements if you use that grant.
So with that grant, what will happen is there's a lot of state requirements. So you would somebody would take lead agency. Then with that grant application, the state actually gets final review of your comprehensive plan and they get to give their recommendations. The county overall will then have to approve your environmentals and they have to approve the plan as well. And then you can approve it. So actually, the state, the county are also involved in that process. Um, so, you know, it's kind of like, yes, you get to give your ideas, but not as openly as if you were to just do the comprehensive plan on your own and make it your own, because you have to put in certain guidelines from the state.
Thank
I
you.
sent out an email, went out just before the meeting with some of my thoughts on the comp plan. When you get a chance, if you want to see that, just in my thoughts on it.
Okay, did you send that to the whole board, Jay, or
I
just
sent it to everybody. Yeah, I sent it to everybody.
All right, yeah, I didn't have a chance to look at
Yeah,
it.
it went out late, and I was driving back from somewhere, and I was like, it was struggling to give me everybody's email address in the car, so I had to get in front of a laptop. But it should have gone out to everybody.
Okay,
And
good.
if you don't have any more questions on that, there is another grant that's open, and it's a technical assistance grant that I wanted to quickly bring up to you. I know everybody is busy. But it's a Housing Trust Fund Corporation grant, eligible up to 250,000 to support technical assistance projects. And some of the examples are, you know, zoning analysis reports, you know, recommendations to increase housing capacity, streamlining and accelerating building permitting services, evaluation of publicly owned properties for development, RFP prep for development for locally owned sites, market studies, housing needs assessments, traffic or other impact studies. And Nicole, when does this due? November, I think.
November 25th.
Yep, November 25th.
And it's not a CFA application. It is a smaller application. But I do know, like you guys were looking at housing studies, and this would cover that. It would also do some of that market analysis for you.
What's the matching?
Yeah.
There is none.
None.
Well,
I don't see why we wouldn't do it
yeah.
if we're, you know, as long as we're eligible.
Yeah, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of heads shaking, but let's do that officially. So it sounds like, we would be interested in applying for that,
I make a motion that we apply for the
whatever he
technical
just said.
assistance grant.
Technical.
Whatever he just said. Sorry.
Whatever he just said.
Love that.
Okay, so we got Bill, or I'm sorry, Dave and Mandy. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
No,
And then-
all right.
Nicola and I will dive into it together. There's a webinar coming up on it. We'll attend that and then bring to you probably the best determination of what we think, based on what the state is telling us for what of those things that fits that we would ask for the money.
Okay,
So if that works for you.
yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, everybody's shaking their head.
Nicola, did I miss anything on that?
No.
Okay,
Good.
appreciate that.
And
Yeah.
not just that, but something to think about is that if you are looking, the vacant rental program is actually gonna start rolling now constantly. So if you're looking at that to entice like landlords to renovate their vacant apartments, then you may want to look at that housing assessment and that needs assessment.
Is that in this grant that's due the 25th? Or is that a separate
Separate.
one?
No, it's separate.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
separate.
a separate one, but what it does is that grant, we use the housing assessment, the needs assessment to write that application. And communities that did the first round are using it to get rid of their Airbnbs because it's enticing landlords to do long-term rentals because they can fix up their property with no match
Nice.
Up to 75,000 per unit.
for the vacant rental. So when that comes out, we can let you all know.
We'll have that count. And Nicole and I are working on one in another county, and it's moving along very well. And that was what, a $2 million grant, Nicola, and we're just moving right along. Hammers are about to swing on those apartments.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. All right, good. Thank you, guys. All
None.
right, any other questions for Nicola or Jay?
I would just, we talked about conflicts with the comp plan and the strategic plan. The fact that we have an outdated comp plan, I think once we review that, and even if you read our mission statement from our board, it's gonna be pretty clear direction. And in my thought and attitude is the comp plan is critical. We did a lot of work. I think it was in 2019 or 20. We did a SWAT. We bought in the community. Everybody added all their things, and then it turned over to the town and village, and nobody did anything with it. So there's a lot of data that's already collected.
And who has that data?
I don't know. But it's somewhere.
I might still have some of that.
Yeah,
I was-
you remember when we had a great turnout. A lot of people showed up. And a lot of the things that were in that SWAT have been completed. Some waterfront development, some grants and all those types of things. And I just think if the comp plan is in place, our whole idea, at least from the town board perspective, is to have a pipeline and keep filling the pipeline with just grants like you guys are just talking about. And keep that pipeline pumping. And with the comp plan, that's gonna thrust us forward as opposed to not having it when we apply for those grants.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's thinking I think it's a chicken and the egg thing, right? So we've got this possible grant that could have some things tied to it that we're not gonna want,
Which was a concern of the town.
right? I mean, but
Which
as we went through that, right? So that's out there. There's a price tag on doing a comprehensive plan. The idea of the economic study was that they could contain that in what we're already paying them. So that was the idea from a financial perspective, to go down that route. So I hear you on, we need the comprehensive plan. Absolutely, right? 2012 is way too old, Dan. Totally agree. The question is, how do we get there financially?
But I thought we had talked last meeting, if we get the grant, we would do an RFP
We would.
outside of G&G. If we don't, we would ask G&G to pick it up and begin that process.
Mhm.
That was my understanding.
Right, my only concern was when Nicola and I talked about Chautauqua
Mhm.
and knowing the concerns that were raised at the town board, that raised a flag for me that even if we do get it,
Mhm.
would we want it?
Well, we'll have to review the
Right.
parameters and the requirements. I mean, I think that's a decision we make.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we should have made it before we applied.
Right, but it was a very short time frame, as you well
I
know.
understand.
Yeah.
But I think if there's stipulations that we're not comfortable with,
Mhm.
or the town and village aren't, then we walk away.
Right.
You know, that's an option that we have.
If I could, oh, sorry.
No,
No, go ahead, Jay.
If I could touch and I kind of you'll see it in my email when you get a chance. You know, I would strongly suggest, not putting out an RFP until we find out the status of the grant. And I think you're probably on board with that. And Nicola had touched on it earlier, with some of the, compliance when you accept that grants, different MWBE goals, a lot of, former rules and factors that are going to come into play if you do accept that grant. We would obviously bid on it. Um, you know, we have the experiences with Nicola on the team to handle doing a comprehensive plan, and I think it would turn out very well. So it is something we bid on, but if we did move forward with it without the grant, a lot of those rules aren't going to apply, and you can shape it. And the town is the applicant. I'm looking over some of my notes here, so they would be the lead. So we need to keep that in mind. But if it's whether it's awarded or not awarded, it is something we can assist with. But I do think, and I think you're in agreement that the comp plan is a high priority. But with this technical assistance grant and other things you're looking at, and if we have the extra time, we can certainly start the ball rolling on a number of these things. So I apologize, I talk a lot. I just wanted to
No.
make sure I got it out.
Yeah.
A couple of us are reading your email right now,
Okay.
because it actually is important advice.
And I think the email spells it out probably a little better. I'm just trying to, keep it. I know you have a long night ahead of you, and I didn't want to extend it
Well, since
unnecessarily.
not
I
all
remember
of
these
us have
meetings.
read it, Jay, do you want to give us the highlights? I mean,
big-
so
the big-
if you had to net
But
it out.
but
The biggest highlight.
Nicola doesn't like it when I do it, but I have a tendency to pat her on the back because her the work she does on comp plans and strategic plans it's good. And I'm comfortable saying that.
I think Carolyn, if you say that again, I think.
It seems like the biggest recommendation here is to delay the RFP for several very good reasons. Is what I'm mostly reading off this, Jay.
Yeah, I don't see the need to put it out right now till we know about the application. And like we said, we can assist with that RFP. I think we said that in the last meeting. Not that you need the help, but we're more than happy to.
No, because
Although
I
we
think
actually, you know what though, we probably shouldn't if we're going to bid on it. But
Yeah.
we can certainly, that's a no-no, but I mean, we can certainly proofread it.
Mm.
We can't write it for you if we're going to bid. State frowns on that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So Jay, and I'm scanning this quickly, so.
No, I get it.
So I guess my question is, are you saying we should not do anything on the economic strategic and just be in a holding pattern until we hear about that grant?
I don't see any problem with us starting the ball rolling on some of that economic and strategic when we have the hours to do it. I don't want to get so far into the weeds with it though that then that grant comes out, and I think we can do some preliminary things for that. I don't necessarily want to put it in a complete holding pattern because I think that's a kind of a waste of your money. It's if we have the hours, and that's assuming we have the hours. But so I don't mind starting some of that. But that grant's probably going to be announced, like the comp plan grant's going to probably be announced something in Nicole, what'd you think, November-ish?
I thought we were thinking.
You're muted. Oh, you're not.
November, December, but I'm actually meeting with the state rep next week, so I can find out like what her thoughts are and when the state is going to approve it,
Nothing to lose.
right?
All right.
Yeah, like I said, we're not opposed to starting some preliminary work. And Nicole and I have actually discussed that. And I know you guys and Nicole had the meeting with you guys, that brief meeting, to talk about some of that.
Well,
I would just hold off.
another thing we talked about in that brief meeting, was the idea of, so there's a portion of the contract, which is basically sort of, what I call you guys getting to know Cape Vincent currently. And we really do need a plan on how that, I mean, because some of the stuff, right?
But not
Which is
all of it.
why you're mentioning that, and I've given, Nicola and Dave has given updates on the strategic plan that we put together. So I know you've got some ideas, and that's why you could bring up these two grants, but something more extensive where it would sort of be, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I think it's number 5 on the main page of the contract. But basically says, you're going to do some analysis and then put together a calendar of the kinds of grants that we should have. So we're kind of doing this, like one's coming out now, and it was, in July, and you guys just started, right? There was the July thing, and now there's the November thing. I think we need something that's more of a
we can put
logical
that we
plan.
can put that together. I mean, the calendar is a best guess because we don't know certain things. Like the NPR grant is coming out, and I'm assuming you want us to redo that application.
I don't know
That's the
what
Parks grant.
the what. Oh, parks for
The Parks grant, which is I believe your skating rink.
yeah, probably.
I
Yeah.
would assume you'd want us to redo that. Rumor
Yeah.
is it's reopening soon. You know, I assume you want us to redo that. I don't know if that's. I guess I'm asking you now. Do you want us to renew that? Do we have at the pleasure of this board? Do you want us to redo that application when it opens? That way, I don't gotta scramble.
That's the covered ice rink
Yes.
grant.
I'd make that motion.
All right, Carol makes a motion and Dave seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone
Aye.
opposed?
Jay, you probably don't know the share yet, but the last time it was different. It was 90-10. In the year prior, it was 75-25. Any idea if they're gonna be sticking with the 90-10?
Nobody knows. I'm assuming, and I guess when that happens, obviously, when we know the match, we'll let you know. And if the pleasure of this board is, whoa, walk away from it, we'll walk away from it. That's no harm, no foul. We'll make it a point to let you know. I'm assuming 90-10 based on the last round. Um, Anything's
Okay.
possible in this state, but that's my assumption. We'll let you know though. We won't start it until if the match is 90-10, we're good. If it's the 25, we'll hold until you guys give us a direction.
So yeah, and again, I'm looking not necessarily for you guys to just sit down and make up a calendar, guessing where grants might be, but what's your project plan to get to know Cape Vincent better? So it was seeing the strategic plan, which we got to Nicola. But what else? Do you want interviews with people? Do you
Well,
want?
that's my thought was we come up and do a day or a half day. And because I found the best thing that I did in the Cape was just sitting and talking with people. And I think that, people are pretty responsive to us. I would love to have the opportunity. And I think we talked about this before. I set up a little office hour and, we put it out there through social media that we're going to be there. And if people want to make appointments, great. If they want to walk in, when we're not having the appointments, great. And I would love to have that opportunity. My thought would be to do it before year's end. I'd rather do it before January and February. Thank you. But so I'm thinking maybe December, if that works for you.
Yeah, so I think all I'm asking for is for you guys to put together a proposal, right?
Yep.
Of, these are some tactics we would like to use to be able
Okay,
to
of how we're going to do that.
answer that piece of the contract. That's what I'm looking for. If I'm not articulating it as well as
I have some other ideas as well, and Nicole and I will hash that out. The thought of a survey might be helpful and putting it out there, but it depends on how you market that and get it out there. The results can be abysmal.
Yeah.
And
And it's
Nicole,
hard in the winter because all the seasonal people are gone.
they're
so.
gone. Well,
But,
let me ask you
yeah.
that then. and I'll let it be because I know you have other stuff. On a question like that, how much influence do you want from your temporary seasonal residents? What do you want from them? I know it's a touchy issue, and I'm dancing around it and being
Jim,
delicate.
what do you think? Seasonal person on the board. He's in the car.
To which part? So I got a
Yeah,
cold.
so what is your thought about how much weight we should put on what our seasonal residents think about what we're doing? I've made him speechless.
It requires some weight. Yeah, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I think it should take some serious weight because I think what you look at are what you're looking to attract people for or things about the community for. So I think seasonal views would be good. And
Oh, you got to have it.
yeah,
Seasonals pay taxes as well. And we want to include everybody. But we'll do it, whatever this board desires.
Yeah,
Because seasonals are hard to reach sometimes.
I don't think they get any more weight than the locals that are year round, because the locals year round are the ones that
Oh,
are.
of course not. No, of course not.
Going to the grocery store, they're the ones that have kids that we're running to attract more kids. This.
Yeah, but if you can take the data and you can look at it separately, it's interesting to see the Venn diagram, I think.
Yep, and then we also look at the demographics of the seasonals, and if that's what we're wanting to attract more of.
Yeah, well, that gets back into this whole, what's the comprehensive plan, right? Are we a retirement community? Are we a seasonal community? What do we want to be, when we grow up? So, all right.
Nicole and I will hash that out.
Yeah, and like I said, just if you can give it to us with the board to have enough time to review it.
Of course.
Think about it, and then we can have a good dialogue on it. I think that would be very helpful.
Very good.
Nicola, thank you for the differentiation between those two. That was really helpful, and I think it will help formulate some of our thoughts. So thank you for that.
Yeah, send those up along too.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the Google Drive. Nicola, the last version you sent me still has the last page blank. I have no idea why. Let's try it one more time where key takeaways actually has something in it.
Okay. If I have to, I will put a new slide in and rewrite it, and then
yeah, it's so weird. Every
it in
time I get it, the key takeaway slide is blank.
Technology.
yeah.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're
Talk
welcome.
to you soon.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right, so the next up is going to be the treasury report. I was actually hoping Pam would be here. Dan, I need to ask you a question.
Certainly.
So I've been going door to door doing my campaign thing. And I was at a person's residence and they said, "Oh, you're on the LDC. I was on the first version of that." And I said, "Oh, the committee?" And he said, No, when it was a corporation. And so there was a corporation, I guess, quite a while ago. That's not true. That had to be disbanded because the town and the village cut their funding to 600, and they were at $600 and couldn't do their audit.
That's news to me.
Okay, I was just curious. Anybody else know that? I was hoping, because Dan and Pam, have been in politics here a long time.
When we first started the corporation talk, I know that there was something about the tax piece that they had something registered prior.
Yeah, there was another corporation.
Yeah.
And what this person described to me was that the town and village continued to cut their funding until they had to go out of business.
Well, and
I was just curious if we were playing that movie again.
Well, if we, and that
was why I asked. I didn't know if anybody knew.
No, I don't know anything about that, but if the town and village aren't going to commit, then why are we sitting around this wasting our time?
That's probably
we're not wasting. We are putting a lot of time in as volunteers, and if they're not going to fund us, I have tons of more stuff I can do.
Why do you say we're not committing?
What's our budget for next year, Dan?
20,000 from the town.
So we can't pay our bills with that. We can't match. And we're gonna have to come to you and the village every time we get a grant. We can't do anything with that.
First off, I'm not justifying the decision.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with it, but it's a board.
Mhm.
And part of the problem, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, is the pipeline. There is no pipeline. We have no pipeline of grants. And that was the idea when we originally set this up was, we'll put in 60 a year, we'll put in 40 a year, and we'll keep that pipeline going. So if a grant comes along and you need 20, you need 30, whatever. That isn't running yet. The engine hasn't gotten going. And I'm talking from the board perspective, not all me personally. They looked at the budget, at the town board, we've been very conservative. This budget this year, we're holding the tax rate again. So on $100,000 assessment, your town tax is $73. And over the last 10 years, it's gone up $1 in 10 years. So are we conservative? Are we concerned with fiscally being responsible? Yes. We try to keep 10%. We call it a fund balance, you call it reserve, whatever, same thing. They looked at your budget. And I see where they're looking at too. The budget. I don't know why you say you can't pay the bills. If we get the grant, at the end of next year, you're gonna have $70,000 left in fund balance. If we don't get the grant and we transition over to G&G, you're gonna have 80,000 in fund balance, because we don't have to pony up the 10. And that's only if we spend all on the contingency budgeted amounts. Okay, so they're looking at that and saying, well, at 70,000, that's 50% fund balance for their budget. And if we don't get the grant and we do it through G&G for the most part, it's 58% fund balance. So we're not trying to shut you down. We have run into a situation where it's just not up and running to the point where our expectations were.
So let me,
Your
just
expectations, that's.
but clarify the one thing about the 10% fund balance. I mean, the town has the tax revenue to come in to, they know that next year they'll get the tax revenue.
Mhm.
So it's not exactly the same, because if next year we don't get anything, I mean, we can't have a 10% fund balance because we wouldn't even be able to pay the other half of the contract for G&G. We wouldn't even be able to pay the other half of state.
We're not asking you. I'm saying that's what the town likes, is to carry a 10% fund balance.
I'm just saying.
Truck gets in an accident, you know, you never know what's gonna happen.
10% couldn't apply to this. issue.
I understand that,
Okay,
and it isn't. Under your current budget, it's at 50%. And that's why, well, I'll come back to the line of credit. I think it's critical that we set up a line of credit.
I was speaking about what we talked, the bank, our bank.
I saw that you did, that's great. And I think once that engine starts and the pipeline begins to fill, then the funding is gonna be there. It's not about the money. I keep telling you, it isn't with the town. It is with the village. I have no idea if the village is gonna give you anything. I can't speak for them.
No, and I'll
Well-
speak to them on Tuesday night.
They don't
So-
have any money.
Right, but
Well-
I will speak to them on Tuesday night, and
Right.
what she put in is based on the 60/40, so that's a reasonable thing. We got
I
till the
agree.
end of the month to put a budget in,
Yep.
so.
No, I understand, and I'm not trying to speak for them.
Mhm.
The other concern that they had, and it came from either one of the town board members or one of the village board members, is on our audit at 10,400. They're saying it's ridiculous, the cost.
Mhm.
And I said, I believe we went to an RFP,
We did.
and it may be different because we're in a different category than, because I know the fire department pays about 2,000 a year. The district as a not-for-profit. So I think we should research, make sure that that is the best rate or cost we can get. It does seem pretty high for our small budget.
So who does the fire department use?
I don't know. I didn't get that information, but it's certainly something to check out.
Who wants to check that out?
I think the town board should.
So Dan, look,
Yep.
I got a question for you. Look, I know you're the messenger, okay? And I don't know all the history about how this all came to be and whatever like that.
Yep.
I just opted to go ahead when I saw an announcement one day looking for a board member about 2 years ago. So
I'm glad you did.
I really don't know the history and how we kind of got to forming this LDC, kind of the vision of it. Because I've heard some people in the joint meeting saying, you know, hey, our vision was we'd have this autonomous LDC. We dump some money in at 60-40 and kind of give you some leftover parameters. You move out and draw fire. And I have others, which is basically fill in the blank. You're not doing what we expected. You know, it's almost like a power thing or whatever like that. So, and I don't know what the truth is because I don't know why this was formed. Because I've heard kind of the left and right limits of that. And so, and I don't know what direction to go because in my mind, when I joined, I thought we were semi-autonomous, but kind of learning over time, that means different things to different people. And the control of the money and how we're not doing things in certain people's minds, and that's both town and village. It seems like it's jerking us. And so when we think we're kind of going in a direction, slow or fast, depending on, you know, who you talk to, it just seems like that money is kind of a power thing. And so it might be 10% on the town, but what if that's not really what we want to do? What if we want to go do 30 because we want to, I don't know, potentially do micro grants or something like that, like $20,000, do start small one, but we need money to do that. But we also need other money in case these other things happen. If they fall through, great, we have more. If they don't fall through, then it's in line with the budget. I just say that all because I don't know why we were formed, and I'm very concerned with this budget. I know when the village, good reasons laid out why they cut it, and I'm sure the town's got great reasons to, despite those other things. But I'm watching this thing, and like I put in my email, yeah, we can get through 26, but depending which way it goes, you know, are we facing another cut for 27? You know, are we just on the road to insolvency? And if we want it, we have to beg and justify for it. And I don't know.
I don't believe that.
I just don't know.
No,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it comes back down to the reason this board was formed was the town and the village want to apply for grants, and they wanted to pass it on to a separate entity and help fund it. They still do. That is the intent.
But they want the control.
Not necessarily the control. They want the pipeline. This is what we need. You know, Bill just mentioned it. If we need this, if we need that, we need something that says we need this.
Okay, so,
And this
so
is
just,
why.
yeah, so let's use maybe it would help with a concrete example.
Sure.
So comprehensive plan.
Yep.
So let's say this, what Nicola told me about Chautauqua, and when she was talking about where are you putting your wind towers, I was like, holy crap, let's not do that in Cape Vincent. You know, I mean, let's not go down that path. So we may very well, you know, and as they're actually administering one of those grants, that's the kind of things that the state is requiring. And so we may very well not want to use that.
Mhm.
So I guess my question is, when you look at this, we can't fund it. We'll go out for an RFP. That's our process. We'll do that. But let's say you know, what the thumb in the air that G&G gave us is the right amount, you know? Consultants are expensive, 90K or 90, you know, $90 to $110 an hour is not unreasonable for, and that I'm probably back level a little bit on that because it's been a long time since I've been doing the consulting. But, so Dan, what happens? We know, let's just play this scenario out. We say, oh, yeah, no, we don't want to do that smart growth. Now that we got under the covers, we all said, no, we don't want to do that. But we don't have enough money to do it. I mean, that's clear. If, you know, if the town or the village does what we think, right, which would be the 60-40,
Yep.
and I'll know for sure on Tuesday night. So what do? Do we say, oh, well, we're just gonna punt, we're gonna maintain that 60. And then maybe next year we'll have enough money to do the comprehensive plan. And then are we playing the same scenario? Well, you guys, you're not doing what we want you to do. Well, we don't have the money to do. And then we
It's
just,
not what we want you to do, it's what the intent was.
right, but I mean, I think we're all in agreement on the intent, right? I think there's nobody, I don't think the town board, the village board, or the LDC doesn't think updating the 2012 comp plan is a bad idea. We all want to do
It's a
that.
necessity.
Right, but let's say it's $100,000. Let's say that sticker price is correct.
But I thought we discussed that if we didn't get the grant, or let's say we don't take the grant,
Mhm.
that we would engage G&G under their current contract. And it's an oversight. It's not something they've got to completely do. It's a group of people just like this that are willing to get together and look at the comp plan and update it with direction. So I don't think it's going to take all of their hours if we flip to them. And I thought that's what we talked about last meeting.
We did talk about that, but the comp plan has been being talked about since I've been involved. And Scott was supposed to update it with a group of people.
Wasn't Scott's fault. It was the town and village's fault.
Okay.
I was on the town board.
That's what I'm saying, though. So again, it's a town and villages, like you just, thank you, you just said what I was trying to say.
It was our fault.
Well, and the other problem we have is the LWRP isn't up to date. Right? I mean,
That's the village. I
right,
can't speak from the village.
right.
The
So,
town has signed up.
our two planning documents, and as Bill articulated, you got a bunch of volunteers,
Mhm.
right? That are really trying hard to make this thing work and spending a lot of time to make it work. So what do you think, using the comp plan as an example?
Mhm.
So we go down and we say, yeah, we can use G&G for some of this. We're not gonna, we'll just use them. And then we say, but we need to give them another $20,000, 70,000, whatever. Would the town be willing to give us money out of cycle to complete something?
That's where the line of credit comes in.
Yeah, see, I'm really uncomfortable with putting a 4.5-year-old organization that
See,
doesn't have any guarantee of any income whatsoever.
So let's just.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just had a brief discussion with Nick this morning, because it's a loan application, you need to have collateral.
This is
So-
it, Governor.
Correct. So, he said, he's getting himself up to speed on nonprofits, because he's not really up to speed on that. He said, but basically, I see you have CDs, and those could certainly be used as collateral for a line of credit. I said, well, let's picture the scenario where the CDs have been spent, because we have funds that we're going to be spending those on. I said, so, for example, if we had a grant that's $100,000 that we have to fund, and then, our cost is ultimately 10% of that. He goes, absolutely, I don't see why that would be a difficult one to get a line of credit backed by a grant to fund the grant to make it happen. So that's one thing. So
that's good.
yeah, so that makes
Mhm.
sense, right? Because we've got a document that says they're gonna give us this when we do this, so that would all work. I said, okay, so, and then the CDs aren't there. So let's say the next thing is, he says, well, you need what you're going to spend this on, and you need collateral. And I said, so would, perhaps if the town and village signed on as guarantors on a line of credit, is that something? So he is looking into that.
No, that's
Because, I mean, they don't just give a line of credit with no collateral.
yeah.
That simple. And we have no asset. We do have assets, but they will be gone by the time we want a line of credit. So it's not just a line of credit you have to have that. Whereas town and village do have tax income, they have that, so that's.
Yeah, they have a guaranteed income.
That, I just think that's how this would end up rolling out,
Yeah,
but we
and-
don't know.
And that's kind of the way we see it. The other thing you gotta understand is, we have to go collect this. I mean, if we're gonna give you 60 grand, we have to get taxpayer money.
Give us, you're part of us.
Oh, I know.
And, I think we just heard some really good grant progress here, and hopefully these guys will land the grants.
Mhm.
Again,
Because they
That's
claim like they could land the grants. We didn't land any grants, anything really.
Recently, yeah, we've
So this.
the grants
I think-
we're turning
I
in
think
with
getting
blanks on it.
G&G, I think again, our momentum is getting back up there.
I do.
And we do just feel like the wind was taken out of our sails with this amount.
And again, I wanted to go back to the 100, 60, 40.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
so I mean,
I learned
like us,
quickly that
I
that wasn't
understand,
gonna
I
happen.
understand you're wearing two hats.
Yeah.
But you're the only voice coming from them to understand this. Because I think none of us have found the time to go to the board meetings and hear it
Yeah, I've
ourselves.
been to a couple.
So
Right.
for some of the, I guess, folks in the know, I know Dan's one of them, Pam would have been another one, but there may be others. What did this whole thing look like before the LDC? I mean, what couldn't the municipalities do that supposedly the LDC allows the town and the village to do?
The state came in and said, you can't be an extension of the town or the village municipality unless you're a corporation.
But I mean, but get rid of the corporation, what couldn't you all apply for and do, I guess is my question.
It wasn't more, it was more administering them. They didn't want to
Okay.
have to administer, because they still have to apply for some.
Yeah,
grants.
I mean, a lot of
They
them
have-
are, we can't apply.
Right,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
they,
that's,
they didn't have this people to administer them. That's where, I think, that's where.
Yeah,
they
so-
or the time.
So,
So-
well,
We're
okay,
dealing
so,
with a $4 million budget, the village is dealing with, I don't know what their budget is, but. But the other thing is when we have approached on behalf of the town to take on grants and administer them, it's like, we're not gonna do that, we can't do that.
I don't remember.
The charging stations, with the comp plan, that was a big pushback. And I basically said, if I was you, I'd go in there and offer to do the comp plan.
When did we say we wouldn't
Do
do
the comp
that?
plan.
What are we talking about?
I mean, we said we would not fund the EV chargers. Yeah, we said we would not charge because it was a source of revenue for the village. And that's why we were trying to get a grant for that. And trust me, Dan, I have spent countless hours trying to get a
I know
freaking
you
grant for
have.
that.
But if you get it, the village doesn't have 400 grand. They're not gonna do it.
What do you mean?
Just what I said.
400
You've gotta
grand.
pay the money up front before you get reimbursed.
Right, they were going to add the 190,000 from National Grid onto the one they're going for the New York Forward.
It's the semantics.
Yeah, anyway,
When I talked about the comp plan, the 100,000, and having you guys administer it. Oh, we're not gonna do that.
When did we say that?
Absolutely.
When did
And
we
that's when
say
I
that?
said,
we would never say we're not administering a grant.
We
never.
never said that.
that's when I said, if I was you folks, I would make sure that you let the town board know that you'd be willing to do that.
We did at the joint meeting.
I know you did, but before that, it was like, we don't have the money, we're not gonna do that.
It's because you guys can't commit to the money for us. So how do we have the money, Dan?
I'm just telling you part of the issue.
I understand that, but you have to see our issue too, is we can't commit
do.
if the village and town don't give us the money. We can't pull money.
If you go to the town or village and say, we've got $100,000 grant, and we need to come up with $10,000, we're gonna administer it.
But you just said to Mary
Well-
that
That you
you
wouldn't-
will not give us money off cycle. So what is it? You'll give us money off cycle when there's a grant you guys want us to
It's a
administer,
budget.
or you won't give us money off cycle. You
We
just
don't-
said that.
We don't
Dan.
like to give money off cycle.
But
That's where the line of credit comes
But
in.
you understand what our
Like or
frustration
do,
is?
yeah.
No,
so.
if you need 50 grand, take out a line of credit. At budget time, we're gonna give you the 50 grand.
So so this was formed. The town and the village could apply for most grants. But didn't really have the capacity to administer, thus part of the reason for this creation. If this LDC was to disappear today,
Mhm.
the town and the village, they still could go ahead and hire a grant writer or contractor
Sure.
to do those things,
That's
right?
what we did before.
Right, so what does this offer that couldn't do?
There's
Because this is like
grant-
free labor, but it doesn't sound like that's the impasse of this board's not doing fast enough to meet expectations. But yet the town or the village could hire someone to do specifically the
You
issue,
don't
right?
need the
Or-
money now.
Right.
That's, our board is looking at it, the village board is looking at it and saying, we're not gonna get any of the taxpayers' dollars to put into CDs. And I understand where they're coming from. And I gotta believe that if you think about it, you would too. We're not gonna take taxpayer money, give it to a different entity to invest in a CD.
Yeah,
If you need-
I don't disagree with that at all.
If you need the money, tell us why, And we're gonna fund it at budget time. That's where the.
And if you
lines are.
don't, then you'll have wasted money on all the setup of this, and I guess the egg would be on the tax.
I guess the only other question, and my battery's now running low and I forgot to plug. Sorry about that. Occupancy or, hotel occupancy tax.
Yep.
That's a variable, correct?
Yeah.
Any chance, because we are now funding the tourism office to the tune of 47% of our budget, that if that is increased in any way, or that a percentage of that could flow outside of the IMA?
I don't know, it's in our budget. I mean, we budget those funds. And that's another thing that'll send you right over the cliff.
Oh, good.
Is there's a lot of concern about the tourism position and the overlap with the chamber. Not so much from our board, but from the chamber.
Well, I'm sure there is, except that your board, your two representatives to those meetings were adamant that it report to the LDC. So I know your board was, that was Heather and Al.
Last work session, I'm just sharing stuff.
And that was a dictation that we do that.
Right, because
The LDC did not dream up that position.
I don't,
That was,
I've never
you
felt
will
that is,
do
that it's the fit for us
Yeah.
to have a tourism position.
the
and
reason that the
tourism
town
advertising.
representatives were adamant about it reporting to the LDC was because the chamber's responsibility is to only service their members. And therefore, the LDC with their mantle